In this movie, I'll show you the eraser tool, which allows you to clean up mistakes that you make with the blob brush, and I'll also show you how to use the two tools in concert with each other. I've saved my drawing, such as it is verybadboy.ai, found inside the 08 painting folder. I'm going to switch to my black arrow tool, and I'm going to click on this right-hand eye and shift-click on the pupil in order to select both of these paths. And then I'm going to switch to the eraser tool, which is located directly below the blob brush. And I'm going to increase the size of my cursor a little bit like so, and I'm going to paint in a highlight right there at that location. And then I'll reduce the size of my cursor and try to even up some of that badness down there at the bottom of the eye like so. You end up just erasing into the path outline. Illustrator goes ahead and again smooths out your brush strokes and, of course, revises the path. But it only works with the selected path outline. So notice if I want to paint a highlight over here in the left eye, it looks like everything's working out great, but when I release, nothing happens. And that's because the eraser tool only affects the selected path, which is really a great thing. But I want you to come to terms with a keyboard trick that is going to allow you to work much more quickly with both the blob brush and the eraser tool. And that's the Control key. If you press the Control key on the PC or the Command key on the Mac, you will switch to the last used arrow tool on the fly. So in my case, it's the black arrow. And so if I Control click or Command click on this left-hand pupil, I'll go ahead and select it. As soon as I release the Control key or the Command key, I return to the eraser tool. And that Control or Command key trick works when you're using just about any tool inside of Illustrator. I'm going to go ahead and paint in a little bit of a highlight there. Now I need to fix the face coloring, so I'll press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and click on that little sliver of beige there in order to select this big beige shape. And I'll paint away some of that. I'll paint away some of this stuff up here. I'll paint down in this region. Notice I can paint all over the pupil. It doesn't matter because it's not selected. I only affect the selection and nothing more. Then I'm going to increase the size of my cursor by pressing the right bracket key a few times. I'll paint away this stuff. I'll paint away there as well. All right, now at this point, let's say I want to give this guy some eyelids. I'm going to switch back to my blob brush, and I'm going to reduce the size of my cursor by pressing the left bracket key a few times, and I'm going to go ahead and paint over that, and that is actually a mistake because, after all, I had changed my fill color to beige when I went and selected this background shape. So I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change. And then I'll press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and click on any old black shape in order to select it. That automatically changes my fill color to black, as you can see up here in the control panel. And now I can go ahead and paint eyelids onto the eyes like so, and Illustrator automatically joins the shapes together. Now what if I want to go ahead and fill in those eyelids with beige, because after all, they would be skin tones. Then I could press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and click on that beige shape in the background. That changes my fill color to beige, as you can see in the upper left corner of the screen. I'll increase the size of my cursor quite a bit, and then I'll paint over the eyelid. And it looks like I'm getting the results I want, but as soon as I release, I painted a new beige shape. And that's because the other beige shape is way in the background, and essentially the blob brush tool can't reach it. You can change that behavior. I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac. In order to undo that brushstroke, I'll double-click on the blob brush icon here in the toolbox, and I'll turn on this checkbox, Merge Only with Selection, which gives you way more control over what's going on. Now I'll click OK. So now we have a blob brush that's behaving like the eraser tool. In other words, it only affects the selected shape. The big beige shape is selected, so now if I paint over the eyelids, I affect the beige shape and it remains in the background, which is absolutely awesome. So it doesn't jump to the foreground, which of course would be unfortunate. We don't want that. Now I'm going to give this guy a ball cap, and there's a method to my madness. I'm not just doing this to goof around. I'm going to press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac, and I'll click on the mouth once again to select it. And what that does is that changes the fill color to black. I'll reduce the size of my cursor by pressing the left bracket key. And I'll paint a cap onto his head like so. And I've gone a little bit too far with it probably. That's okay. I can erase that in just a moment. I'll go ahead and give it some lines. Notice I'm only affecting the selected shape. Even though the mouth remains selected down here, I'm not joining the ball cap to the mouth in any way, shape, or form. Now I'll switch over to the eraser tool and I'll paint away some of this garbage over here because I don't want it. Let's say I want the cap to be at more of a jaunty angle. I'll just go ahead and press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac to deselect everything so I don't affect the mouth. And then I'll press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and click on the cap in order to select it. I'll switch to the next tool down, which is the Rotate tool. Click right about here, let's say, to set a reference point, and then drag the cap down to more of a, jaunty angle. Go ahead and use the arrow keys. I'm pressing the up and right arrow keys in order to nudge that selected cap into a different position. Now what I want to do is erase his head because I don't want the cap to seem like it's transparent or something. So what I could do is Control-click, for example, on the flesh shape in order to select it. And then I could grab the eraser tool. I'll increase the size of my cursor quite a bit and paint away that area, but I'd only affect the flesh shape and nothing more. What if you want to affect multiple shapes at the same time? Because you don't want to have to sit there and erase each and every single shape. Well, I'll go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac in order to undo that change. And then I'll press and hold the Control key in order to get my black arrow tool. That would be the Command key on the Mac. And I'll marquee over all of these shapes except for the cap. And now, if I brush over this area, even though it looks like I'm erasing the cap as well, of course, with the eraser tool, I just affect the selected shapes and nothing more. All right, now I'll press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac in order to accept that result. Now I'm going to press the V key in order to switch back to the black arrow tool. So here's the thing. We're going to be using the blob brush and the eraser tools in order to create this complex design. And you'll see it's actually not hard work at all. But just so that you and I are on the same page, if you're doing this along with me, make sure that the blob brush, I'll go ahead and double click on its icon here. Make sure that you have both of these checkboxes turned on inside the blob brush tool options dialog box. And that way you will get absolutely the best results possible out of this tool.